So defining the size of the round. It sounds a bit like a weird question, but it's really important to think hard how much should you actually raise in a fundraising round. And there are a few different things you should do to think about that. First, I think you really have to understand the value inflection points. So what you need to reach to make your company much more valuable. This can be first prototypes, first customers, a first 100,000 of customers. In healthcare, it can be a regulatory approval or a clinical study that you done, first revenues, stuff like that. However, just understanding that is probably not enough because maybe you say, well, with $4 million, I can reach a big value inflection point and make my company much more valuable. However, if you have a relatively low valuation and you need to raise 4 million to make this happen, this can be a problem. It's really important that you understand fundraising as a long-term game. Very often startups come to me and they say, I need a few $1 million and then I will be break even and that's it and I will be happy ever after. And usually if you look at really successful companies, let's say NASDAQ IPOs, they generally do 5 to 7 fundraising rounds. They raise hundreds of millions, sometimes even billions of dollars. So it's really important for you to know that this fundraising round that is now coming up is most probably, if you're successful, not going to be the last one. So what you want to do is not get too much diluted. So you shouldn't give too much away of your startup. Typically, you would say it should be 15, maybe 25%. So in this range, something there. So it's really important to understand how much your company is currently valued to then decide how much you should raise. So if you start, you have a good deck, it will probably, your valuation will be 1 up to 5 millions if you have a good product, a good idea, attractive market, a strong team. So somewhere in this range, as you get first traction, you have some first happy customers, you have some prototypes that are working, you can de-risk the technology. Maybe your valuation goes up to 5 to 10 million, something like that, as you start generating revenues, ideally recurring revenues. Your valuation will probably pass $10 million and then go up from there. Slowly it becomes the valuation that investors would look at will become a revenue multiple. So let's say you have 5 million of revenues. Maybe they say, okay, with strong growth in an attractive market, this is a 10-time revenue multiple. So your valuation will be 50 million. Something like that. And then over time, as you really get established, growth goes down, investors will look at EBIT margins or EBIT multiples, but that's probably a long way from where you typically stand. So it's important really that you understand what is the current valuation. You should talk to some experts, to some investors, and they will quickly be able to tell you, okay, it's probably going to be this range. So let's make an example. People tell you and you feel my company could now have a valuation of $8 million. What this means, if you want to give away 20% of your company, would be that you should raise something like $2 million. But wait, you will maybe say, shouldn't it be the investors that actually tell you how much the valuation should be in the term sheet that they will hopefully provide? I agree. Probably you are going to listen to them. So you're not going to go out and say, we are $8 million valued. You will listen to them. Maybe you get some term sheets where the valuation will be 6 million. Maybe it's 10 million. But I think even before going out, it's really important that you have a very good understanding where you are, because that lets you then create the round in a way that makes sense. 2 more points. First, I think you can create higher valuations if you make complicated terms. An example would be liquidation preference. You could create some factors that could increase your valuation, and that is sometimes done. I would not do that. Keep it very simple. I don't want to go into technicalities. You will be able to read that on the Swisspreneur website, but keep it very, very standard. And the second point is, this is the time to also think about incentivization programs for your team. I would say a standard should be that you carve out 10%, maybe 15% to incentivize your current and your future team members.